Hi, this is my session 7 reflection. Um, the one article, the Whitby and Grillo article that talked about interactive whiteboards, just a few thoughts on whiteboards. I actually used one during my student teaching experience. The students really seemed to enjoy them. I had 11th and 12th graders, so I mean, the older students even, got a kick out of them. I didn't have little guys. In two of the classes that I taught were co-taught with a special ed teacher. So every morning we would do like a vocab activity where we would have definitions and like a picture or a video, some sort of sound clip, which I noticed they mentioned in the Grillo and Whitby article, that just to kind of have students relate, make some kind of connection for themselves from the, whatever sound clip you decided to play. We sometimes did like quick YouTube videos, just to have something for the students to connect to besides just a definition. I actually had one student, if we ever had like a famous person we were learning about, say Adolf Hitler, he would actually kind of sketch a picture of the people in his notebook, and that helped him, kind of remember them. That was his own little thing. But I mean, I definitely noticed that. I would use that in my future teaching. I recognized that and I was like, oh, I've done that. So that was neat. Um, one other thing that my coordinating teacher or cooperating teacher mentioned to me was for the two classes that were that I had the special ed teacher, and he said that routine kind of helps them too. So that was a nice thing to have, just the vocab activity every morning, just so they kind of know what's coming every day, so there's no surprises. That was another thing I just wanted to throw in there that I thought, to make, students feel comfortable in your classroom. Obviously not have every day predictable, so it's not boring, but at least, they come in to class, they know we're gonna learn a couple vocab words today, and that gives them something to do right when they walk into class. Another thing that stuck out to me and that I would definitely use, if I had the opportunity, is co-teaching from the Charles and Dickens article. Last fall during student teaching, we had to write an RIP paper, the Reflective Inquiry Project. And I actually did mine on co-teaching and the benefits for special education students. And through my research, I actually found that one of the biggest struggles with that is not having enough similar planning time. But while I was student teaching, I actually co-taught with a teacher for two of the classes. And, we set aside I believe it was like one period every week. And, so 40 minutes roughly. And we would just kind of sit down. At the time, I was the person making the lesson plan, so I would have to tell her, okay, this is what I'm planning on doing. What do you think? Is there anything you can add so I can make it better for these students? Anything I can do to, adjust it and, whatever I needed to do. So I thought that was neat that, they mentioned we had a whole article on co-teaching, and I was like, oh, I wrote my whole paper on it. But I definitely noticed that similar planning time was a big complaint. But I mean, everyone needs to be on board with co-teaching. So, if you're going to have your co-teacher, yourself and another person, you need to set aside time. And, like they mentioned in the article, you can meet over the internet or, outside of class. But when it comes down to it, it just comes down to, making time for the students, and it's always for their benefit, not your own. You always need to keep that in mind. And I really don't think, 40 minutes out of my week, to plan with another person, another mind. And in my case, she had been teaching for 20 some years, so obviously she knows a lot more than I do. So that was a great opportunity for me to be able to do that with her. I mean, she was very busy. But yeah, and it also mentioned that a second complaint was there wasn't enough, not enough support from the administration, which I didn't find that during my student teaching. I mean, I guess, maybe some schools might not support it, but I really think it's a great opportunity to have, two people in a classroom, two minds, especially, I had the social studies background, so I had the content while she had the special education background. So, she really could show me how to adjust my lesson plan so that, all the students benefited and not just some of them. So I thought that was great too. But definitely, if I ever had a chance to co-teach again, I would do it in a heartbeat. I loved it. I liked having, two people in the classroom. I think are, better than just me because, that's two people to answer questions, to, explain things, maybe in a way it might not occur to me to explain it, that the other person can. But then another thing to keep in mind too is, in any work environment, you might not get along with the person, but when it comes down to it, you just have to really, make it for the kids because that's what it's all about. So yeah, I think that's about it for my reflection for this week. See you next week.